This is Aaron Ritter, and I'm Limitless Outdoors, and I have the opportunity tonight to chat with Brad Strope from Forged in the Outdoors. The great part of this is Brad and I actually met, I think it was in 2019 sometime, through a different organization that we were both a part of. It was a social media based hunting organization, and we ran around in that group together for several years, and then we both ventured down our own paths. And Brad reached out to me just a couple of days ago regarding a new and very unique archery product that I started testing and using back in February of this year. And he now has an interest. So I'm going to let Brad introduce himself and Forge It in the Outdoors, and then we're going to dive into this new product that I believe is causing a ripple in the archery industry.
As Aaron said, Brad Strope, Forged in the Outdoors. I founded that a little over a year ago. Small team. Our focus was kind of the digital recording of our hunts. As Aaron had stated, we had met previously on another team. Both split off and doing our thing, and Aaron quite successful there.
Well, let's my success is based on other success. So I'm Limitless Outdoors is all about breaking boundaries and helping other people live a limitless lifestyle. But thank you very much, Brad, for the compliment.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about why we're here. February-ish time frame. I was connected to a product that I had looked at several months prior, and I did not take the plunge. And through the saddle industry, and one of the owners of Latitude Outdoors, which I'm a big Latitude Outdoors fan. One of the owners actually used this product. So at the ATA in January, I had a chance to have a face-to-face conversation with Kevin Leach regarding Zinger Fletches. And I returned from the ATA looking for a new Fletch to hunt with this year. And I contacted the guys at Zinger. Super dudes, great hunters, successful hunters, huge in the archery and the saddle and mobile hunter industry. And they introduced the Zinger Fletch, and it's a completely different type of Fletch to the archery industry. And I literally gave it a shot. And I have played with the Z3 and the Z4. The Z3 is their 3 Fletch. The Z4 is the 4 Fletch. Both of those were in a right helical because that's what I prefer. I do a lot of arrow testing and a lot of shooting and a lot of tuning, and I just don't spend my time on the natural rotation of the arrow. The fletching is going to take over and spin that arrow. So I don't worry about it. Some people disagree with me, and that's okay. Run your arrow the way you want to. It's great. But anyhow, I said, you know what, I'm going to give these a shot. And I have been 100% nothing but impressed by these Fletches. So anyhow, Brad hit me up. He said, hey, I want to talk to you about this. So we figured, why not do a video and then we can share it. So this might answer questions for other people that are sitting in Brad's scenario where they want to know more about Zinger Fletches and they need to talk to somebody that's been shooting them for the last 8 months. So Brad, fire away at will.
All right. Well, I actually have one of my hunting arrows here. What intrigued me and brought up the questions about the Zingers is, I've looked at there's several review videos out there about them, and with shooting a high FOC heavy arrow, but looking at the painless effort of always putting vanes on your arrows, I was looking at something to lighten up the back end of the arrow, but still was able to steer that arrow, and something with ease, such as the Zinger. I'm shooting about 125 grains. I'm sorry, 225 grains up front, with a serious arrow, with the Ethics 100 grain insert outsert. And I, with watching several different videos about it, I was just curious as to one, several questions. One, does the arrow wrap affect the slide of the zingers? Does it make it tighter? And two, are you seeing any kind of variation in arrow flight with having that light back end? Obviously, with a high FOC, the arrow is going to go where that front end leads it. But how's the steering on them with a heavy arrow?
Okay, so let's start with one question at a time. Which one do you want me to answer first?
Well, let's do the easy one. Is there any effect? Do I need to go a bigger size on the Zinger Fletch with an arrow wrap?
So the answer is no, you do not. However, it is a much tighter fit if you put the Zinger over a wrap. When I initially started testing and using the Zinger, my wraps went all the way to cut carbon right at the knock. And they're difficult to get on. Now there's different things that you can do to make it easier. You can take some dish soap and get it wet. When I say dilute it down, reduce the viscosity of that dish soap, so you're not putting straight dish soap on your arrow wrap and the Zinger, and use that for a little bit of lube. I've used spit, and then I've used a dish soap water mixture to do that, and I've also done it just dry. But it can be challenging, and you're going to end up having, if you do a dozen arrows, you're going to have sore fingertips from trying to pull and push those zingers down the shaft. And I run my zingers 1 inch from cut carbon. That's where I want the back end of my zinger. I like it to be 1 inch from cut carbon. There's other people that want it 1.5 inches. It's whatever. There's a couple of things that you want to look for, Brad. Obviously, arrow flight is the end goal, proper arrow flight. But everybody's anchor point in their face structure and their release is different. So I might run a 1 inch gap. Somebody else might try that 1 inch, and they're getting that vein is seating against their chin. So they push it down to 1.25 inches or 1.5 inches from cut carbon, and then they get vein clearance from their face. Other people, maybe they only need 3/4 of an inch, but as long as you're getting that correct release and positive arrow flight, having that zinger somewhere between 1/2 inch to 1.5 inches you're going to get good quality arrow flight. I ended up transitioning to a shorter arrow wrap and leaving straight carbon from the zinger to the knock. One, I kind of like the look of it. Two, I do not have the wrap underneath my zinger, and I no longer have to deal with the added diameter of the wrap. The other thing that I found, and I use a really high quality wrap. I like One Stringer. One Stringer makes I think one of the best wraps on the market. And
absolutely.
And even though their wraps have such great adhesive quality, I found that pushing the zinger down on the wraps, some of them were bunching up the wrap underneath the zinger, and I did not like that. So that's really the main reason why I transitioned to a shorter wrap with bare carbon on the top. Now, the other thing that you can do, if you like the look of the full wrap, you can either, if you have wraps made by One Stringer, tell them that you want a 1 inch wrap so that you can put your base wrap on, put your zinger in place, and then put that top wrap on. Zinger also makes a reflective wrap that goes between the top of the zinger and the cut carbon. So you have that option as well. So that's my answer to that. They both work. I have found that just going straight carbon is much easier.
Yeah, and with most fletching jigs, you get about an inch anyways from the end of carbon to the start of your vein. So,
I agree.
and with I went to since I'm shooting a 4 blade broadhead, a 4 blade fixed broadhead, I went to a 4 vein to get a little more steerage. So I was probably looking at the 4 vein or 4 fletched Zinger.
Okay.
But there again, you kind of look at you have to take into consideration with your any facial pressure where your anchor point is. So it'll just be trial and error there.
Okay. Well, do you want to talk about the difference between the Z3 and the Z4 and what I tested?
Sure.
Okay. So, per the recommendation of the gents at Zinger, they sent me Z3 and Z4 to test. I primarily shoot a mechanical broadhead. I support veteran innovative products,
Sure.
and Matt, that guy is a design wizard, and my favorite broadhead of his is the Combat Veteran, and I shoot that hands down anytime that I possibly can. Pardon me. In December, when I drew elk and mule deer tags for Idaho, I'm pretty open about where I'm going, but I'm not gonna share it in this video. We're too close to season. Um,
Right.
at that point in time, they did not allow mechanicals, so I had to switch to a fixed blade for elk.
Right.
So I started looking at different broadheads. I chose to go with a micro sized broadhead. Um, the three broadheads that I was targeting was the G5 Striker, because I'm a big G5 Prime fan. I love Prime. So the Striker was on the top of the list, and it came highly recommended by Corey Jacobson. I sent him a couple of messages. We talked about it, and he recommended the Striker. The guy that I'm hunting with this year, he shoots the QAD Exodus, and he loves that head. So he gave me his test broadhead. When I say he gave me the test broadhead, it was the actual, it was a huntable broadhead, but that's the one that he used to
Sure.
test and tune all of his arrows with. And then I reached out to Grim Reaper. I chatted with them on the phone extensively, and I went with the Micro Hades 3 blade. So of those three fixed blade, I two of them were 3 blades, the QAD and the Micro Hades by Grim Reaper, and then the Striker was the 4 blade. So I went with a Z4, and I shot the broadheads with the Z3 and the Z4. Um, with those three broadheads, the Z4 controlled all three of them brilliantly. They were pretty much field point accurate. The Z3, the two 3 blade broadheads shot dang near field point accurate. The 4 blade broadhead at 40 yards was hitting high and left. And when I say high and left, I'm talking 3-4 inches high and left, not 6, 8, 10 inches high and left. It was steering
Right.
that broadhead, and I was probably just going to have to do a little bit of tuning, and I would have been able to tune that broadhead right into dead center. There's no doubt in my mind. It would have just taken a little bit of time and energy on my behalf. Now, since that time, Idaho has changed their laws, so
Right.
I am back to taking the Combat Veteran. Brad, you've known me for a while. I'm publicly open about this. I don't follow the beat of the common drum. I
Right.
just because a YouTube sensation uses a different product, or the majority of the archery industry uses a certain product, doesn't mean that Aaron Ritter and Limitless Outdoors is going to use that product.
Right.
I'm a proponent for change, and I like to test things and watch things work and see how they're designed.
Sure.
And there are folks out there. Um, Jay, MFJJ, the podium archer from up in Spokane, he uses mechanicals. You have man, and my mind just went blank, and I can't. I'm a huge fan. Dudley from Knock On uses
Right.
mechanicals. They kill
Right.
big animals. They kill big bulls every single year with mechanicals.
Right.
Um, the big things that we have to think about is accuracy kills animals. It doesn't,
Right.
whatever broadhead you choose to shoot, accuracy is more important than that broadhead. And if you're shooting the
Absolutely.
right setup, and if you're accurate, and if you're an ethical hunter, you're going to put that mechanical and or that fixed blade in the right spot, and it's going to harvest that animal. Anyhow, not to get on a different soapbox. Um, the Z4, in my opinion, it stabilizes the arrow so fast and it's going to drive your broadheads. Now, to be 100% transparent, I have not tried shooting a big fixed blade broadhead off of a Zinger. However, there are people that have and they shoot them.
Okay.
I can only speak to my experience.
Right. Okay.
Now, what before I go in a different direction, what's your next question?
Well, next would be as far as steering. Um, what what offset are you shooting on your zingers?
So they have 3-degree offsets.
Okay.
So I shoot a Z4 with a 3-degree offset right helical. They make them in a left helical as well.
Okay. Yeah, I did see that. I did look around the website a little bit, and picked up a few different things. And I'm kind of like you, it's I don't have the time at the moment to actually go through every arrow and figure out if it's spinning right, if it's spinning left. So I do everything in right and let the veins or the fletching do their thing. Um, but what intrigued me the most about the zingers was one, tuning an arrow, being able to, without having to heat up and move your inserts,
Yeah.
you can move that vein, or move that fletching, um, with shooting. And I shoot a micro diameter size broadhead too. I'm shooting the tooth
Okay.
of the arrow,
Okay.
which with a 4 blade, and I get great flight with four veins. So that's why I would probably lean more towards the four veins on the Zinger. Um, it's just lining up that broadhead with your veins in the tuning and all the different aspects of it. But steering, um, as far as heavy broadheads, I'm shooting 125 grain. I've looked at other higher grain broadheads, and I've been shooting 125 grain for 30 plus years. Never had a problem with it. But with the size and looking at the height on the zingers, they look pretty similar to like a boning heat vein, as far as height wise. Um, what is your experience as far as steerage?
They stabilize the arrow so fast and they fly like darts. The first arrows that I tested were just over 500 grains with 17% FOC.
Okay.
And they were on a Sirius Archery Apollo with all ethics front end, and it was
Okay.
125 grain head, and they flew like darts. I have since reduced my arrow build, and I am this year going to Idaho for a very personal reason, regarding a friendship. I'm shooting
Sure.
the Victory VAP SS, and it's a 460 grain arrow, and I am at 14% FOC. When I was shooting the heavier arrow with those fixed blades, they flew like darts, all out to 60 yards. With the micro diameter lighter arrow that I'm shooting now, they fly like darts. And I have a photo at a 3D shoot from earlier this year. I've torn these veins, and I was on the 3D course with the Zinger that had a torn vein, and we had a raffle shoot. They had a moose at 70 yards with a 4x4 square on the kill zone. And I bought my raffle tickets and I sent a Zinger down range and I put a undamaged Zinger on that 4x4 card at 70 yards. And I had that damage zinger in my quiver. And I said, hey, you guys want to see something cool? And I pulled that zinger out that had the tear in it. It's a visible tear. And I sent that arrow down range and hit right next to my other arrow. And I'm going to post that picture on this video for everybody to see.
Awesome.
The Zinger Fletch it's amazing. There's no glue and there is no heat and there is no hot water. They work by compression. Now, I will tell you this. My micro diameter arrow build at 50 yards will blow through my big buck 3D target. It's blowing through that foam. Sometimes the zinger comes off. Sometimes it moves down the shaft. Sometimes it pops all the way off. But that's kind of how they're designed.
Sure. Sure.
So now I have to have a backstop. Either that or I don't shoot my hunting build at my 3D target anymore.
Yeah, and I'm shooting the Vulcans in a 250 from Sirius, and my arrows ran probably close to that 600 grain, using lighted nock, shooting 4 vanes, shooting a wrap, 225 grains up front, and I started out shooting a 3 vane with the tooth of the arrow 4 blade broadhead, and seen a major difference when I switched over to 4 vane. And I'm a true believer that, you know, match your vanes to your broadhead, you know, especially with shooting a fixed blade. That I've always lived by that. So but yeah, I'm very interested in the zingers, not only for the ease, the durability of them. I think what every one of them is, what 3D printed is how they make them.
That's correct.
And the tunability of them. I mean, that takes a little bit of the frustration out of them, with being able to move your vane versus moving your insert to tune everything. Now, you can go both ways and still tune on both ends to make it work, but I mean, it makes sense.
It does, Brad. And you know, there's something to be said about sitting down in front of your jig and building some arrows.
Absolutely.
But the ease of this, it saves so much time. And then if you're out shooting and you know, when you tear a vane on a traditionally fletched arrow, now you've got to strip it off, clean it, put it back in the jig, glue it back on, make sure everything's right. You know, and sometimes it never flies the same, right? With the zinger. So one, if you tear one of the vanes, she's still going to shoot. I have proven that time and time again in this last 8 months. The second thing is pull it off, put a new one on, and Zinger, the guys at Zinger, they guarantee these for life. So you hit them up and say, hey, I tore one of your zingers. They're going to send you a new one.
Right. I had seen that on the website. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's how customer service should be.
Absolutely. It's an American company. They're based in America. Their product's made in America. They sell it out of America. They're deer hunters that are making a great product. We have a couple of minutes left. So
sure.
I want to wrap this up by saying this. Zinger Fletches, they're extremely different. I challenge anybody to try them and give me their honest opinion. Don't tell me you don't like them if all you do is look at them, because they are very different. In the 1960s, my dad was a traditional archer. And when the first wheel bow hit the market, he didn't like it. And all of his friends, his archery club, they all swore they're not going anywhere. Nobody's going to buy that. That's a waste of time and money. Well, after a decade or two, the wheel bow took over the market, and now the traditional shooter is in a very, very special niche in our community. A couple of decades after the first wheel bow came out, the first carbon shaft hit the market, and the same thing happened again. All the guys that were still shooting wooden shafts, the guys that were shooting aluminum, I shot a Easton XX75 game getter. That was my thing, right? And when we saw carbon shafts, what is that? That is not going to go anywhere. And
Right.
now everybody across the board shoots carbon shafts. A lot of traditional archers shoot carbon shafts.
Yep.
So I encourage people to, if nothing else, contact the guys at Zinger and try them. Buy a 6-pack and give them a shot. If you don't like them, then tell us why. But if all you do is see a picture of them, or you see them on Facebook or Instagram and they look extremely different, don't say that they're garbage if you've never shot them downrange, because they're not. They are legit. And I am going to put one through an elk in southern Idaho in about, well, in less than a month. We're going to go make meat, and it's going to be with the Zinger.
Awesome.
Right on, Brad. I hope I answered all your questions.
You did.
Please reach out to the guys at Zinger and order a test pack. And
Sure.
I guarantee you're going to be impressed.
I will definitely do that.
All right. Well, I'm going to wrap this up the same way that I do with everything else. Brad, it was wonderful catching up with you. It's really, really good to see your face and talk about archery, and be limitless.
Thank you, Aaron.
All right, we'll chat soon. Who doesn't love free gear? I do. After this Q&A wrapped up, I thought to myself, why am I not giving away some free Zingers? So I called Steve Terry, one of the co-owners at Zinger Fletch's, and I said, hey, Steve, I want to give away some Zingers. And Steve said, Aaron, why aren't you giving away some free Zingers? So we're giving away some free Zingers. All you have to do, you need to follow my YouTube channel, and you need to drop a comment on this video. Doesn't matter what your comment is, drop me a comment and your name will go into this hat for a drawing next Friday, September 2nd. If I draw your name out of this hat, you get this Limitless Outdoors hat, and you're going to get your package of Zinger Fletches of your choice, meaning what helical you want, what color you want, and whether you want the Z3 or the Z4. Super easy. Follow my YouTube channel. Post a comment on this video. Your name will go into this hat to be drawn for these Zingers. Well, almost these Zingers. Be limitless.